Hey everyone and welcome back to another Relink video. Ever since my friend introduced me to Fate Stay Night, I've been absolutely obsessed with the Lady Knight archetype. So it should come as no surprise that my favorite character in Relink is the lieutenant of the Airst Empire herself, Katalina. But is Katalina even that deep? I mean, you just fill the Ares bar and mash Y. Pretty simple stuff, right? Wrong. Turns out, there's a massive amount of tech like animation cancelling, high damage caps, animation cancelling, Ares extensions, animation cancelling, mech skips, and more. In fact, the text guide is so long, it would qualify as a dissertation. If this hasn't scared you away yet, then you're in for a treat. Katalina just might be the most technical character in the game, but that's also what makes her extremely rewarding to learn and master. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to build and play her, as well as explain all the tremendous amounts of tech that you can incorporate to elevate your gameplay. So open up your brain tank and get ready for some premium 94 octane knowledge, because this is my guide to Katalina. Okay, let's start with her skills. Katalina's passives, aka her support skills, are Blue Radiance and Vow by the Sword, which allow Ares to assist you with combat in various ways. Her active skills are easily categorized into two types, attack and utility. Starting with the attack skills, Enchanted Lands deals a single hit and is a very fast dash. When used with Ares, it gains 6 additional hits and gains a massively increased damage cap, making it the strongest skill with endgame gear. Frozen Blade shoots an Ice Blade forward and has 2 charges. Used with Ares, it gains 4 additional hits. Winter's Reign is a 6-hit combo that has high stun value. The final hit is an Ice Spear that drops down, but it can be difficult to hit on smaller targets like Sir Beryld. With Ares, it deals 3 additional hits. Azure Sword fills your gauge, summons Ares, and deals 3 quick hits. Additionally, your Ares gauge will not drop for 15 seconds. Because of the nature of the skill, there is no non-Ares variant. For her utility skills, we have Heal, which heals in a large radius around Katalina. When used with Ares, the heal becomes stronger and gains increased range. Emerald Shield, a skill that grants 15% defense and Stout Heart. Used with Ares, Emerald Shield will buff the entire party. Sacred Winds, a great CC skill that glaciates enemies for 2 to 4 seconds while the skill is held. Make sure you hold it for the full duration for maximum CC. Great for using on bosses to skip or extend phases. Used with Ares, Sacred Wind's effective range will increase. And finally, her iconic skill, Light Wall, which grants full damage immunity to Katalina for 10 seconds. Timed well, it lets you bash in the boss's head while the others have to dodge. Using it with Ares will extend the effect to your teammates, granting the entire party full damage immunity. For a skill build, I recommend always taking Enchanted Lands, Frozen Blade, and Azure Sword. The last slot is situational, but the most common pick is Winter's Reign. However, if I'm playing with newer or lesser geared players, I occasionally take Emerald Shield to give them the longer duration damage reduction buff. Lightwall can be used to similar effect with immunity over a shorter period. When playing with an exceptionally strong group, I'll take Sacred Winds to skip boss phases. Heal is generally not taken since Potion Hoarder can grant you up to 6 blue potions, and if your party needs more than that, they need Jesus, not heals. Katalina's kit and playstyle revolve around her Ares gauge. There are 2 sections of the gauge and it's filled by landing attacks with finishers and link attacks. Keep in mind that each section cannot be overfilled by a single source, meaning if you are at 49% gauge, the next finisher will only get you to 50%. It can be helpful to imagine the gauge as having 8 parts, meaning if you have 3 parts of the gauge filled, using a combo to generate 3 more will only grant 1. Each of your finishers fill a different amount of gauge, but the same finisher will always grant the same amount. Now that we know how the Ares gauge works, let's take a look at all the ways we can fill it. XY is a very fast combo that also has a short dash on the finisher and grants 1 part of the Ares gauge. Pro tip, if Katalina is locked onto a target, whether manually or by proximity, she'll dash farther. 2xy is a simple upward slash that grants 2 parts. 3xy has a very long dash that's followed by an overhead smash and grants 3 parts. 4xy has a mashable multi-hit jab, followed by the same finisher and also grants 3 parts. 5xy is the full combo with finisher and generates gauge twice. The final horizontal slash of the basic attack chain grants 1 part, and the final hit from the finisher grants another. Because 5xy grants gauge twice, this is the only combo you can use at 3 parts to generate gauge past the halfway point. Pressing Y after any of your 4 attack skills will use the same finisher as 5xy and grant 3 parts. "3Y", aka Oathsworn Blade, is a 3-hit combo that generates 2 parts with the final hit. For your aerials, the 3xy spin attack will grant 3 parts of your gauge. Unfortunately, the Icicle Crash finisher from your other aerial combos won't generate any gauge. Finally, your Link attack generates 3 parts on hit. I've grouped the combos based on how many parts they generate, so feel free to pause and screenshot this if you'd like a visual reference. Naturally, some combo chains are more efficient at filling the gauge from empty than others. Here are some of the ones that I find myself using frequently. Your XY repeated 8 times has a very low margin of error, and the fast combo means that you can duck and weave out of attacks as needed. XXY repeated 4 times is another easy to remember chain with a good rhythm. The combo resolves very quickly and it's fairly easy to execute even without visual confirmation. Among the 4 chains here, Frozen Blade into XY into Frozen Blade into XY is the fastest way to fill your gauge and is also really easy to execute. Enchanted Lands into 5xy into XY is a flexible chain that lets you gap close at the same time. You can also replace Enchanted Lands with 3xy for a shorter dash, or with Aerial 3xy if you need to jump. Of course, learning these chains alone won't make you a top tier Katalina, but it's a great place to start as you slowly add more tech into your repertoire. Any section of the chain can be replaced by another combo that generates the same or more parts, and you can also change the ordering around if needed. Weaving different chains based on the situation is a core component of playing Katalina effectively, and is what makes her so much fun to master. Also, don't get too obsessed with comboing quickly that you rush and mess up. Taking an additional half second to input correctly is much better than screwing up. If you're interested in a speed comparison of various chains, Angel Noah has a video that goes into further detail, which I've linked below in the description. Once your gauge is full, you can use a finisher, skill, link attack, or SPA to summon Ares to fight alongside you. While active, Ares will modify your skills and increase your finisher, link attack, and SPA damage. Whichever way you summoned him, you'll want to make sure you spam Y immediately after to perform the Pactstrike combo, which is a large portion of your damage. If you used SPA while your gauge is full, Ares will increase the damage of your SPA by a ton, but you will not be able to perform a Pactstrike to follow it. One thing I'd like to point out is that the 5xy or skill finisher looks very similar to the final hit of Pactstrike. It's easy to get confused, especially while learning, so keep an eye out for the X from when you and Ares strike together, signifying the end of the combo. Also, the damage of Pactstrike is somewhat backloaded, so try your best to complete it. If you summon him but don't take any action, he'll leave and your gauge will reset. Additionally, normal attacks, dodging, guarding, breathing, jumping, and that annoying pushback the boss does when entering overdrive will cause you to drop Ares as well. So make sure you follow up your Ares summoning by spamming Y every time. About 2 seconds after the final hit of Pactstrike, Ares will step out and leave you to begin building gauge again. If you act quickly enough and use a skill or linked attack, you can start another Pactstrike combo. Rotate your skills correctly and you can perform an infinite amount of Pactstrike chains. If you've heard someone talking about infinite Ares, this is the main concept behind it. Because Ares doesn't leave mid-Pactstrike and has a small window after the last hit of the combo, we can chain it by using an ability and looping another Pactstrike. This can continue for as long as you have skills or link attacks available, and if you SBA, you can stall out the timer for your skills even more. Speaking of your SBA, a quick reminder that you cannot follow up your SBA with the Pactstrike, so make sure to use a skill immediately after and then spam Y. The astute among you might be wondering, if I need to use all my skills to maintain Ares, does that mean I shouldn't use any while he's not active? To which I would respond with an irritatingly lawyer-like answer of, well, it depends. The complicated non-answer would be that almost every single situation is different, and you have to make the best judgment after considering all of the factors of combat. Is there a long extended burn phase coming up? Will the boss be stunnable at some point so you can link attack to generate or extend your gauge? Is your SBA gauge going to be full when all your skills are on cooldown so you can use it to stall for more time? If you use your skills, will you have enough hits on the boss for Cascade or even Nimble Onslaught to help you get your cooldowns back? But seeing as how we're not robots, the simpler answer would be that you should only use Azure Sword and the first charge of Frozen Blade to assist you with filling the gauge. This will leave you with at least 3 skills to use with Ares, and it's likely that 1 or more of them will come off cooldown as you fight. Alright, that was a lot of yapping in a small amount of time, so let's summarize what to do in combat. 1. Use Azure Sword or combo chains to fill the Ares gauge. 2. Use a finisher or skill to summon Ares. 3. Mash Y and make sure you complete the full Pactstrike. 4. Immediately follow the final hit with another skill, link attack, or SBA. And 5. Repeat starting with step 3, or go back to step 1 if you dropped Ares. For the most part, your skill rotation while chaining Ares is Enchanted Lands, 1 stack of Frozen Blade, Winter's Reign, and then your last stack of Frozen Blade. After that, it depends on your cooldown reduction and cascade levels, so use what becomes available, and reference the previous list if you ever get 2 skills at the same time. And to keep it simple, link attack should be used whenever it becomes available, and SBAs should be used for CBAs or to extend Ares when all of your skills are on cooldown. What I've mentioned so far should be more than enough to play Katalina at a good level, but what's gaming without a little min-maxing? Here are 4 pieces of advanced tech that you can do to up your play. Keep in mind that not all of these are practical or even necessary to play Katalina at a great level. This is probably the tech that affects Katalina's gameplay the most, and it effectively lets you instantly do the 3-part generating finisher as much as you want. After using Enchanted Lands or Winter's Reign, immediately follow by pressing dodge, then Y. The timing is very generous and you can basically press the button simultaneously. This will cancel the skill with dodge, not putting it on cooldown, and then proceed to perform the skill finisher as if you had used the skill and pressed Y. This is most likely because the game remembers your action state when dodging to allow you to continue your combo, but whatever the reason, this allows us to perform our fastest gauge filling combo chain of skill cancel plus Y into XY repeated twice. Keep in mind that you cannot do this to extend your Ares window, since dodging will immediately end the Ares state. This is purely for gauge generation. Side effects may include finger cramping, wrist pain, arthritis, and death. This one is slightly harder to execute, but can prove useful if you find yourself without any skills up and want to extend your Ares slightly longer. If you find yourself in this situation, you can stop mid-Pactstrike, then immediately follow up with an XY combo to reset the chain. You could technically do this infinitely, but since a large chunk of damage comes from the back end, I'd only recommend this if you really need to stall for a few seconds. We briefly touched on linked attacks earlier, but there's a little more I want to add here. Just like dodging, link attacks allow you to continue where you were in your combo before using it. Which means just like dodging, you can animation cancel your skills with link attack and immediately follow with a finisher to generate an additional 3 parts on top of the 3 you get for the link attack. Naturally, the best way to get value out of this is to XY, then link attack skill cancel finisher, then XY, but honestly, you don't really gain much and you risk missing your link attack if you're too slow, so I generally don't bother with planning out my link attacks. During link time, our Ares gauge is filled and will not deplete. This, coupled with the standard link time buffs, mean that we just turn into a skill spammer. The highest prio is Enchanted Lands, and whenever it's on cooldown, use Frostblade. You can Pactstrike as a filler, but there will generally be very little downtime. Only thing worth noting is that the CDs are very short, so make sure you're not stuck in animation when Enchanted Lands comes up so that you can use it immediately. Sacred Wind's animation takes about 1.25 seconds, and when held for the full duration, will glaciate for 2 to 4 seconds depending on how close you were to the boss when the skill hit. This, along with Paralyze, can be used to prevent bosses from entering their Bloodthirst phase by CCing them as they enter Overdrive. Timed well, and with good damage, the boss will break before they have a chance to do their annoying Bloodthirst spec. Additionally, you can use Sacred Winds to extend boss mechanics that have a timer, such as Blackworm's final DPS check, or Piet-A's Elemental Shift. Be very careful of this buff, as it means the boss has debuff immunity, so you'll be unable to glaciate it. Also, Vulcan Bola is inherently immune to glaciate, so swap to another skill if you're farming him. Great job powering through, we're done talking about her gameplay, so now let's talk about how to build her. Katalina's ideal overmasteries are crit rate, normal attack cap, skill damage, and attack power. Other decent rolls are SPA damage up, skill damage cap, and SPA damage cap, but make sure you focus on maxing crit and having 20% normal attack damage cap first. For weapons, you're free to use whichever you'd like, as most of them are similar in value, but the ones I recommend are the Luminiera Sword and Blutgang. The Luminiera Sword Omega is Katalina's stinger weapon. It grants a large amount of crit rate and damage, and is the perfect weapon to last you until you get your Terminus weapon. It allows you to cap crit rate easily and provides a respectable amount of attack and health. Blutgang is your Terminus weapon and grants the Catastrophe trait, which increases your attack by 50% and damage cap by a staggering 100%, provided your health is under 45k. Because of this, in terms of pure offensive power, no other weapon can really compete, so obtaining and awakening this should be your focus in the endgame. A quick note that the Ascension weapons are designed to be awakened, so I'd advise against using Merglace unless you've awakened it a few times. Don't forget, if you prefer the visuals of one weapon over the other, you can skin the weapon over your active one, and the Ascension weapon has a unique glow that's different from the Terminus one. For imbuing Wrightstones, there's a couple things to consider. Keep in mind that the max trait levels available from a Wrightstone are 10, 7, and 5. First, make sure your crit cap. Assuming your masteries are maxed, the most common way to cap your crit with non-stinger weapons is to get 20% from overmasteries and 26 levels of the crit rate trait. The 26 levels are usually accomplished by getting 10 from your Wrightstone, 15 from a maxed crit rate 5 sigil, and 1 from your Terminus weapon. If you're using a stinger weapon, your crit will be 79% with just masteries and weapon, so you'll need to get another 21% more from any combination of the other sources. Ideally, you want 100% crit rate, but if you're only a couple percentages off from 100, I wouldn't bend over backwards to get the last points. Once your crit chance is sorted out, I highly recommend getting a Cascade of level 4 so it can accompany a max level sigil and your Terminus weapon to reach the cap of 20. If you're not using a Terminus weapon, try to get a Wrightstone with at least level 5. Other great traits to consider are Link Together, Life on the Line, Crit Damage, Combo Booster, Drain, Guts, and Auto Revive. You're going to be eating a lot of damage with Stout Heart, so getting the extra sustain from Drain is a godsend. Although each hit caps at 500, when you combine the hits from Ares, supplementary damage, and yourself, it adds up very quickly. Damage cap is also possible to get, but it's really only useful if you get a 7 and a 5 together, which will free up a sigil slot. Since that's basically the holy grail of the game, I wouldn't really bother building for it. Finally, remember to use Mirage munitions to plus 99 your weapon. After we set up our weapon, we'll need to work on sigils. For Katalina, the general sigil build for dealing damage is slightly more involved than others. The core parts of the build are 3 to 5 slots to max out your damage cap, 1 to 2 slots for crit, 2 attack increased sigils, I suggest Combo Booster and Stamina, 1 slot for Guardian's Conviction, 1 slot for War Elemental, and 1 for Stout Heart. Guardian's Conviction grants 10% supplementary damage and 15% damage cap while Ares is active, and is an absolute must-have in the build. The additional hits from supplementary damage also count towards stacking Combo Booster, and allow us to fully stack it in just 6 seconds with Ares. In contrast, Guardian's Honor is a very low value trait, so don't go out of your way to slot it in. Stout Heart grants 25% damage reduction and makes you uninterruptible by foes' attacks. Since Katalina gets punished heavily for dodging, this is a core part of her build. Whether you get it via the Sigil or stick to your Emerald Shield's buff window is up to you, but the consistency of the Sigil is hard to beat. As you level your Sigils and get more 5+s, you'll gain extra slots, which I recommend filling with Quick Cooldown and Cascade. One Cascade Sigil will be enough to cap it at 20 with 4 points from a Wrightstone, and the first Sigil of Quick Cooldown provides the most value for the trait. The amount of CDR that you want depends on various factors, but put simply, the less attack skills you have, the more CDR you want. There are charts that explain exactly how much CDR you need in order to sustain Ares for X amount of time, so if you want to see them, check out the Google Doc linked below. Realistically speaking though, you'll never have 100% uptime on a boss from start to finish, and multiple factors will force you to adapt, so it's best not to hyperfixate. To understand the next section, you'll need to know the damage caps of her abilities, but the TLDR is that the damage caps for some parts of her kit are very high, with Enchanted Lands being potentially the most difficult to cap skill in the entire game. Because of this, Katalina likes to take more damage increase sigils than others. In fact, my recommended endgame build for her uses Combo Booster, Stamina, Tyranny, and Skilled Assault. Regarding the damage increase sigils, I recommend doing 2 to 4 depending on how many extra slots you have. The trait priority in order of DPS increase is Combo Booster, Stamina, Skilled Assault, Tyranny, Life on the Line, and crit damage. You can also use Insult to Injury if you're in a party with 100% debuff uptime. If you have 4 sources of damage increase and still have slots remaining, you can then consider taking supplementary damage. Additionally, you can be more of a team player and swap something out for Link Together if you'd prefer to do that. Since Katalina gets punished heavily for dodging, I suggest not taking Glass Cannon on any quest outside of Proto Bahamut. For use as an AI teammate, the build is mostly the same as your own. Although I've recommended differently before, as of recent, the only modification I make is swapping out Stout Heart with Nimble Onslaught for more frequent Light Walls. Additionally, if you don't like the inconsistency of Light Wall, you can swap it out for Glaciate to get some more boss downtime. If you're still here, congratulations, you've made it to the end. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're probably not alone because Katalina is one of the most complex characters in Relink. Just take it one step at a time and have fun playing her. If this guide has been helpful to you, make sure to like and subscribe so the YouTube algorithm shares it with more people, and leave a comment down below with, well, anything. I just love hearing from you guys. Stay healthy and happy hunting.